Yananjana-shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhambitamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Bhakti Tattva Vivek analysis on the definition of pure devotion by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We are on the second chapter, which is called as Bhakti Abhas. So first we'll recite the verse which is composed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur for the second chapter. Yad bhaktya bhasaleshopi dadhati phalamuttamam tam ananda nidhim Krishna Chaitanyam Samupasyame. We worship Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanyam Samupasyame, who is an ocean of transcendental bliss. Tam Ananda Nidhim. Even a faint trace of devotion, Yad Bhaktya Abhasa Leshopi. Unto him yields the highest result. Dadati Phalam Uttam. So we have been quite exhaustively now discussing what is Bhakti Abhas. And in fact, when Rupa Goswami and Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the first chapter, Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, definition of Uttama Bhakti, when he is discussing about the Tatastha Lakshan, the Tatastha Lakshan, when they are not fulfilled, then that Bhakti is not Uttama, but it is Abhas Bhakti. So that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Rupa Goswami establish. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes into an exhaustive analysis of what is Bhakti Abhas, and by knowing it, one will really attain a very confidential knowledge about it. So although Rupa Goswami has not separately dealt with Bhakti Abhas, but he has given the hidden meaning in his definition of pure devotion. Anya Vilashita Shunyam. And while discussing Rati Abhas, Rati means Bhava, he has spoken exhaustively about Rati Abhas or Ratyabhas. So based on that discussion, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is elaborating here in his article, Bhakti Tattva Vivek. So there is Pratibimba and Chaya in Rati Abhas. There are two. And yesterday we saw this. And what is the difference between reflection and shadow? Example of the tree, I hope, was clear yesterday. How, the existence of the shadow is completely dependent on the tree. Whereas the reflection, although it is the reflection of the original tree, but this reflection is considered as a separate entity. So that's the difference. So then we went into Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Ratyabhas and Pratibhimba and Chaya. Yesterday we discussed Pratibhimba. When there are symptoms of Rati, but there is a desire for liberation and there are unqualified persons, then it is not real Rati. Similarly, when Bhakti is practiced, the Mukhya Lakshana there, but there is desire for Bhukti and Mukti, then it will be Pratibimba Abhas, Bhakti Abhas. So that's how Bhakti Thakur is correlating this. So yesterday we saw how this manifests because of the extraordinary mercy of pure devotees, the moon of bhava, which reflects when they come in touch. So that is how it manifests. But because they have the strong desire for liberation, so the reflection of the moon manifest in their heart, not the real moon. So that's what yesterday we discussed. Now we will today discuss Chaya Ratyabhas. This is again Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Eastern Division, third wave, Bhava Bhakti, 49th verse. Ata Chaya, Shudra Kautuhala Mai, Chanchala Dukka Harini, Ratesh Chaya Bhavet Kimchit, Tat Sadrishyavalimbini. That which has some similarity to real Rati. Tad Sadrisha Kimchit Avalambini. Sadrisha means very same similarity it has, which possesses a small amount of interest in the Lord. Shudra Kautuhala Mai. There is a small interest in the Lord, which is unstable, Chanchala, and which destroys suffering. Dukkha Harini is called Chaya Ratya Bhas. Rate Chaya Bhavet. It is Chaya Ratya Bhas. So now let us see what Jiva Goswami has to say. Here the word Chaya means beauty or splendor. So Chaya can mean many things. Chaya can mean shadow also. But here Rupa Goswami says it is beauty or splendor. Here it also means a reflection of or a semblance of beauty. This verse describes this Chaya Ratyabhas, taking into account the meaning of Chaya as resemblance to beauty in combination with the word Abhas. Abhas means some resemblance. Little interest. Shudra Kautu Hala means that though the Lord and Bhakti are spiritual, the person has interest in them only as material objects. Because there is curiosity relating to the Lord, even though material, there is an appearance of little splendor, Kanti. Kanti means we all know splendor. A little splendor radiation is experienced in the heart because of coming in touch with pure devotees or some festivals or coming in touch with the Dham immediately. That is the meaning of Chaya here. Because of the slight attraction to the Lord, there will be slight symptoms similar to those of real rati. So there are only some slight symptoms which are very similar to the real rati. There are slight symptoms. That is the point here. However, because of its nature as chaya, it is also unsteady, chanchala, unlike the pratibimba ratyabhas. In pratibimba ratyabhas, the attraction to material enjoyment and liberation is very strong. But in chaya ratyabhas, the material curiosity about the Lord is transient. So, uh, the Mayavadis or the impersonalist who might take the name or come in touch with the sadhu because they have a strong desire for mukti, that is predominant. So that is why they might experience some symptoms because of the association of the pure devotee, but it is pratibimba ratyabhas. But in the case of chaya ratyabhas, somebody might be very, coming from a pious background. He comes to Vrindavan, say Krishna Balram Mandir, and hears a kirtan and immediately feels some ecstasy in the heart, seeing the darshan of the Lord. And then what is this? He doesn't know it. So he goes to the devotees, maybe buys Bhagavad Gita, gives donation. And it is there, this experience, which is an experience not of this world, but it doesn't last for long. Again, he goes back to his hometown, back again to his worldly duties, taking care of family, office, and but that experience is there, what he has had, but it is transient. So that is the difference between pratibimba uh, ratyabhas and chaya ratyabhas. Still, because of the influence of the Lord in chaya ratyabhas, there is gradually a destruction of suffering of material existence. So because he had this experience, there is destruction of suffering. One should not say this type does not fit within the general category of ratyabhas because it lacks desire for enjoyment and liberation. So even this person who has experienced, this slight symptoms, a little symptoms which are resembling real rati, we cannot say that he is still free from the desire for bhukti or mukti. In Pratibimba Ratyabhas, the practitioners are, you know, having a very strong desire for heaven uh, or in the material world also to, become a very rich man or become a millionaire, or the Gyanis who have a very strong desire for liberation. But in this category, the Chaya Ratyabhas, these desires are not very strong. So that is the difference between the two. It is classed as Ratyabhas because material curiosity in the form of enjoyment is a form of enjoyment as well, a contamination. As well, it does not overlap with Pratibimb Ratyabhas, though both types have a desire for enjoyment, because Chaya is connected with only a curiosity of the Lord, whereas Pratibimb has a strong commitment to material enjoyment or liberation. So this is the point also I made just now, and the same thing Jiva Goswami is saying. Okay, now how does one experience Chaya Ratyabhas? That is now spoken in these two verses. Hari Priya Kriya Kala Deshapatra Sangamat Anusangikat Esha Vachid Ageshwa Apikshayate Kintu Bhagyam Vina Naso Avachayapyudanchati Yad Abhyudayata Shemam Tatra Swad Uttarottaram. This Chaya Ratyabhas appears sometimes even in ignorant people. Kesha Esha Kochit Aggeshu api ikshate. Ikshate means it is seen that it appears even in ignorant Agya people by a combination of performing actions dear to the Lord, observing the festivals of the Lord, residing in the dham of the Lord. Hari, Priya, Kriya, Kala, Desha, Patradi, Sangamat. Sangamat means coming in contact with uh, uh, doing actions which are dear to the Lord. Like he might hear some kirtan or Hari Katha, and then he might come to a day where there is a festival of the Lord, or he might reside in the dham of the Lord. So I remember I have a very close friend in Bangalore, and he's a lawyer in the High Court, and he's working with a very big firm. And because I had some friendship with him, and he had come once to the temple on Gaur Purnima, and just coming in the temple atmosphere, hearing the kirtan, seeing the abhishek, he experienced a kind of bliss and joy, and he shared with me. So similarly, observing the festivals, he might experience some abhas, rati, attraction, ecstasy, but it is not real. It is chaya. It is chaya. But if with that curiosity he pursues the spiritual swath in the association of devotees, then slowly, slowly he can take up to sadhana bhakti, and then by practicing sadhana bhakti, he can attain sadhya and attain real rati. Now, residing in the dham of the Lord, I remember many years back when first time I had come to attend a seminar in Barsana, the Govardhan retreat. So I also did a parikrama of Barsana, and I was waiting for a bus to go back to Vrindavan. And suddenly, a tall, hefty Punjabi man, uh, he was also waiting, and he just came and hugged me, and he was in ecstasy. He said, by mistake, you know, I was supposed to catch some other bus and go to a village, and I landed, and I don't know what this place is. I'm really amazed, and I'm having such feelings. What is this? I just could not understand. What is this place, Barsana? So he had absolutely no idea that Barsana is the abode of Srimati Radha, the home of Srimati Radharani, and it is the part of the transcendental abode of the Lord. And by mistake, he had come, and because he was a village man, and this also looked like any other village. But coming in contact with the dham, the dust of the dham, and just taking the darshan of the temples there, he felt a kind of ecstasy, and he just could not control his emotions, and tears were coming from his eyes. So similarly, it can happen, and that is not real rati. Again, it is chaya ratyabhas. Even devotees who are practicing uh, might have experienced during kirtans, during festivals, when they come to the dham. So all this are chaya ratyabhas. It's not real rati, but it is chaya ratyabhas. And associating with the devotees of Lord, anusangikat apya. Even this chaya ratyabhas, kintu aso bhava chaya apya, which eventually bestows auspiciousness to those people. Yad shemam adbhutiyata tatra swad uttarottaram, appears only with great good fortune. Bhagyam vina na udanchati. So the point is that these kind of experiences of chaya ratyabhas eventually will bestow auspiciousness. We become more curious. We would like to search that ecstasy, just like a person who immediately comes to know that you know there is wealth. His father has left a lot of wealth in the backyard. So immediately when he knows that there is wealth, he need not tell him that now he has to endeavor to go and dig and then collect the wealth. He will do it on his own. So similarly, the real wealth is Krishna Prem for the Jiva, and that drops when he experiences it. So then he will endeavor to now, get that. That endeavor is sadhana bhakti. Okay, so let us see what Jiva Goswami has to say. There should be simultaneous participation in the items listed, performing actions dear to the Lord, observing the festivals of the Lord, residing in the Dham of Lord, and association with the devotees of the Lord in order for Chaya Ratyabhas to manifest in ignorant people. So this is the difference between, again, Pratibimba, Ratyabhas, and Chaya. That any of these angas are performed, and even ignorant can experience it. Vishwanath Chakra Thakur. Because of association with devotees, festivals, and other items, this riti is sometimes seen even in ignorant persons. Persons who have no good qualities, such as tolerance, and have no desire to extinguish samsara. So both the acharyas give a very short commentary. So this is regarding Chaya Ratyabhas. So we took a detour when Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentioned that Bhakti Abhas is of two types, Pratibhimba and Chaya from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So now from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we have discussed both Pratibhimba and Chaya. So any questions or clarifications about it? It is very important that we understand it. Otherwise, the concepts, if we don't understand it clearly, then we cannot practice. If we don't understand Abhideya Shastras, then how to practice bhakti? Then if we don't perform bhakti according to that gyan, sambandh gyan, then the prayojan also will not be attained. So that's why we should study the Abhishek Shastras, understand the Abhideya Shastras, how to perform bhakti, what is real bhakti, what is not real bhakti. That's why we are going into the details of what is Pratibhimba and Chaya Yabhas. Any questions, any clarifications anyone has? Okay, so then we will go now to the back to Bhakti Tattva Vivek. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if you remember, mentioned that I'm just going back to show you that there are two, Pratibimb and Chaya, Bhakti Abhas. And then he gives the example of the tree reflection and tree shadow, which we discussed. And Jiva Goswami's commentary also mentions the Gauna Vritti and the Mukhya Vritti. The Mukhya Vritti is the Bhakti Vritti of the soul. So now, after mentioning, now Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes into the details of Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas first. So he goes into this detail now. So let us now see Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas. I hope it is clear. The semblance of devotion known as Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas can be divided into three categories. Now you see there are further divisions. There is Nirvishesha Jnanavrita Bhakti Abhas. Bhakti Abhas covered with impersonal Jnana. Bahirmukh Karmavrit Bhakti Abhas. Bhakti Abhas covered with material karma. And Viparita Vastu Bhakti Buddhi Janita Bhakti Abhas. That is Bhakti Abhas arising from thinking of Bhakti in a mistaken way. So there is three. Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. So there is Jnanavran and then Karmavran. And then there is not understanding the clear thinking about Bhakti. There is in understanding in a mistaken way. This is Viparita Vastu. Now, each of these, Bhaktivinoda Thakur goes into quite detail. And this analysis and explanation is based on Jiva Goswami. Jiva Goswami is our Siddhanta Acharya, and he has quite elaborately discussed in his works, especially the Shad Sandarbhas, the Bhakti Sandarbha, he has discussed these. So based on that understanding, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is presenting this. So today we will take this Nirvishesha Gyan Avrita Bhakti Abhas. Bhakti Abhas covered by impersonal Gyan. It's very simple. Don't get too much uh, uh, loaded with all these terms. They are very simple. Only if you make a simple chart and understand it, it becomes clear. I will give you the chart once we finish these three discussions. In Nirvishesh Jnanavrit Bhakti Abhas, Bhakti remains hidden by the covering of impersonal Gyan, Nirvishesh Gyan. So Bhakti becomes hidden or covered because of the, because Shuddha Bhakti becomes hidden because of the Avran. Avran of what? Nirvishesh Gyan. At that time, a curtain of impersonal knowledge exists between the sadhaka and Sarup Siddha Bhakti, making direct realization of bhakti in its inherent form impossible. There is a sadhaka, there is Sarup Siddha Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti, but because of this avaran, Nirvishesh Gyan avaran, no, there is no direct realization of bhakti happening. The conception of impersonal knowledge is that within transcendental reality, Chit Tattva, names, forms, qualities, pastimes, and other attributes do not exist. So impersonal conception is what? That the transcendental reality doesn't have names, forms, qualities, or pastimes. So this is their conception. According to this philosophy, these attributes exist only in material objects. So in the material world, there are material names, there are material forms, there are material qualities, and there are pastimes. Pastimes actually here means actually these pastimes uh, all degrade us in the material world in one sense. The Romeo and Juliet, you can say like that. So all these pastimes. So all these attributes of name, forms, qualities, so they exist in material objects, but they don't exist in spiritual objects. That is our understanding. Because these material names, material forms, like the form of beauty in this world, attract, and that's why they entangle. That's why the Gyanis say, Neti, Neti. No, they reject it. So no names, no forms, no activities, no qualities, no pastimes. So neti neti, by this process of neti, but then they, because they are not aware of the spiritual names, spiritual forms, spiritual qualities, they are not attracted. So that's why they are on, in one sense, um, the Brahman realization. Brahman has no form, Brahman has no name, no qualities, no pastime. Brahman doesn't perform any pastimes. So when the jiva becomes liberated from material existence, he merges into undifferentiated Brahman, the undifferentiated Brahman. Whenever such impersonal knowledge exists, unalloyed devotion cannot manifest there. So Shuddha Bhakti doesn't manifest there. Krishna Anushilanam, the cultivation of devotion to Krishna, is called Shuddha Bhakti. But the activities of Bhakti are not possible in impersonal relation because neither Krishna, his servant, the living entity, nor devotional endeavors are present. So there is Bhagavan, there is Bhakta, and there has to be Bhakti. But that is not possible in impersonal liberation. If someone believes that when the perfectional stage of liberation is achieved, Bhakti no longer exists due to the destruction of mind, body, and false ego, but simultaneously they continue to follow the process of bhakti to achieve such perfection. Then how can their devotion to Krishna be called eternal and free from deceit? So this is the question Bhaktivinoda Thakur is asking. When one attains the perfection stage of liberation, uh, bhakti doesn't cease to exist, because there is when you're liberated, the mind, body, and the false ego is destroyed. So that's why they think devotion to Krishna is temporary. It is not eternal, they think. So that is the defect in their philosophy. Such a person tries to please Krishna for the time being, and in the end attempts to extinguish Krishna's existence. Sometimes these impersonalists have conception. In fact, many of the impersonalists, um, because for a embodied being, Dehadhari, it is very difficult to meditate on the impersonal. क्लेशोऽधिकरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्त आसक्त चेतसाम् अव्यक्त hi gati dukkham dehavadbir avapyate. Krishna also in the Gita 12.5 says this. So they also do deity worship. Sometimes they have deities of Radha and Krishna, or any of the deities like Lord Shiva or Ganesh. They do upasana. So their conception is that, oh, deity worship is temporary. Ultimately, we meditate on the deity, and our meditation, when it goes to the advanced stage, uh, we transcend, or sometimes the deity will blast and we will go beyond that to the formless Brahman. So this kind of conception they have. So they want to extinguish Krishna's existence. In precisely the same way, the demon Vrikasura pleased Lord Shiva with his worship, and after obtaining a boon from Shiva that he could kill anyone by merely placing his hand on their head, he tried to kill Shiva himself. The devotion of such a person is deceitful and temporary due to his ignorance of the intrinsic nature of eternally perfected devotion, Nitya Siddha Bhakti. So, Bhakti in the sadhana stage is there, we perform. In the Siddha stage, the Bhakti is performed with perfection. And when one is liberated and when he goes back to the spiritual world, he continues to perform Bhakti. So, Bhakti is eternal. But this kind of devotion by the impersonalist is deceitful. It is for a temporary purpose. So the example is given of Vrikrasura. In Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 1.3.44.46, Rul Goswami has described the attributes of such deceitful bhakti. So this two verses we have discussed already, so I'll not recite these verses. By observing the shedding of symptoms of shedding tears and trembling in persons who desire material enjoyment and relation, it may seem that they have developed Krishna Rati, ecstatic emotion based on excessive attachment for Krishna. But only foolish people who are easily influenced by a show of external symptoms will consider such so-called Rati genuine. Those who are knowledgeable know it to be Rati Abhas. Such a person's trembling and shedding of tears are due to two reasons. Two reasons. The first reason is that they are hankering for impersonal liberation, and by remembering Krishna, who alone can award such mukti, they feel great pleasure. So, they are remembering Krishna, but they are hankering for mukti. And by that type of chanting also, they will get mukti. Please remember this. Oh, just by chanting this Krishna, I will get liberation. They feel great pleasure. This is the potency of the Nam. This pleasure is the cause of their shedding tears and trembling. It is not due to spontaneous love for Krishna. The second reason for their shedding tears and trembling is the happiness derived from thinking that simply by performance of such bhakti abhas, their inner desires for material enjoyment will be easily fulfilled. So when Haridas Thakur was in the assembly of Govardhan Majumdar and Hiramne Majumdar, and Haridas Thakur, everyone knew that he was chanting 3 lakh holy names. So in that assembly, he was told to speak about the glories of Nam. And he spoke that not name, Nam, but the semblance of name, Namabhas. Even Namabhas can give liberation. So he established that based on uh, strong scriptural quotations. And, everyone believed in Haridas Thakur's statements because he was quoting from Shastra, but there was one atheist, although he was coming from a Brahmana family, Gopal Chappal, I think, or Gopal, I think, Gopal Chakravarti or someone. He said, how just by mere chanting of the name one can get liberation? The Gyanis who are seeking liberation for many, many lifetimes, or even when one lifetime performs severe sadhana, severe austerities, and still they don't get liberation. But you say just by chanting the name you get liberation? So he did not have faith in the glories of the holy name. That's why he committed offense. And he got a severe reaction for that. So the second reason is that performing just this Bhakti Abhas was our innermost desires, subtle desires for bhukti or mukti can be fulfilled. So now he gives one example. Varanasi nivasi kaschit ayam vyaharanam haresh charitram yati goshtyam utfullakah sanchayati kand dvai masraye. Once in the city of Varanasi. Varanasi Nivasi Kashchit Ayam. A real saint was chanting the names of Hari in an assembly of sannyasis, and eventually he began trembling and tears started flowing from his eyes. Vyaharan Haresh Charitram. Yati means a sannyasi. Koshtyam, he was speaking about the glories, and Utfulka, he experienced all this trembling. While chanting the holy name, he was thinking, by such a simple process, I will attain impersonal liberation. See, he was taking the name with the desire for liberation, with the desire for liberation. So this is the example Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving. Srila Rupa Goswami describes the cause of such condition. So this already we have again seen when we discussed Pratibimratya Bhas, that how it can be caused by coming in touch with the devotee. Exhibiting such trembling and shedding of tears is not easy for an impersonalist because knowledge and renunciation make the hard heart and push away all the symptoms of bhakti, which is very tender by nature. So these symptoms, what they experience, it's not easy to come in the heart of impersonalists, because impersonalist heart are very hard because of practicing of Jnana and Vairagya. Jnana and Vairagya make the heart very, very hard. That is why in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, after describing the 64 limbs of devotion, what are not the limbs of devotion, Rupa Goswami elaborates quite exhaustively. And there also he explains that Gyan and Vairagya are not the limbs of devotion. So there he establishes. Bhakti by nature is what? It is komala. It is softness. That is the nature of bhakti. So if they are experiencing this, that means because of coming in touch with some pure devotee and by taking the name with the desire for liberation. Even though in the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam chanting conducted by the impersonalist, the disease of the desires for sense gratification and liberation exist. They still feel a little pleasure in their hearts from their performance of Shravanam Kirtanam. Yeah, many Mayavadis, because of dry discussion of philosophy, they also do Kirtan. And I have also observed in many of the places, especially in the Himalayas and especially other impersonalist centers, that they also engage in kirtan, and while doing kirtan, they don't, they chant all names, sometimes names of Krishna, Rama, and all different mixture of mantras. In that kirtan also, they feel some pleasure because somehow they are taking the name, but they don't take the bona fide name given in the Shastras. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. The Kali Sankaran Upanishad is saying this 16 syllable, 32 syllable, 16 word mantra is the mantra Yuga Dharma. So they don't follow the bona fide process. They chant some mixture of mantras, but they are, they feel a little pleasure in their hearts. That's the point. If at such a time, by some good fortune, they obtain association of a pure devotee of Bhagavan, then by the effect of that association, the bhava that has arisen like the moon in the sky of the hearts of pure devotees is reflected even in their hearts, which are contaminated by impersonal conception. So if by Daivat, such people, such impersonalists, come in touch with a pure devotee and obtain his mercy, then they can also come to pure devotion. That's the point. Such an occurrence can sometimes cause a little ecstasy and shedding of tears. So by coming in touch with a pure devotee, they might experience these symptoms. But when again they lack the association of such a devotee, they deride the tears and trembling of their own disciples as fraud or cheating. So this is the problem also. It can happen. They, whatever they had experienced, they deride it and then they just continue with their, because the desire for liberation is strong. But yesterday, as I was narrating the story from the Jaiva Dharma, how a Mayavadi sannyasi was in Varanasi, who had just from his kutir had seen a Premi Bhakta just wandering, shouting the name of Krishna in Prema Bhakti and rolling, and went ahead. And he experienced, having darshan of the sadhu, experienced in ecstasy. He said, "What is this ecstasy? Last so many years I have been in the renounced order and I've never experienced like this." Although he had a desire to meet the sadhu and inquire, but he was a little reserved. Feeling, how can me, a Ekdandi sannyasi, approach, such a Vaishnava? But somehow, uh, because of this experience of ecstasy, he came to Navdvip. And there he associated with Premdas Babaji Maharaj and then inquired, and then by his mercy, he also became a Vaishnava. But it is very rare that such impersonalist would give up the desire for liberation and take up to pure devotion. It's very difficult because the desires for mukti are very, very strong. Hence, bhakti can never appear in the heart covered by impersonal knowledge, but sometimes there is appearance of bhakti abhas. Bhakti here means Shuddha Bhakti, cannot appear because of avaran of Gyan. Gyan avaran. This is Nirvishesh Gyan Avrita Bhakti. Any questions about this? I hope it is clear. Any questions, any clarifications? Anyone has any clarification? Or do you feel this topic is getting too difficult to digest? It is simple. We need to read, reread, and hear. Then things become clear. By understanding this, our own contaminations in the heart will be taken away, and we'll be more inspired to take up to Ananya Bhakti, sadhana stage, I mean, and then attain Sadhya, Ananya Bhakti, unalloyed devotion. Any questions or clarifications? So I have a question. Akamo sarva kamo va moksha kamo dharadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajanti purusha param. This is what Sukdev Goswami tells in the Bhagavatam, I think second canto, second chapter, verse 10 or 11, or third chapter, I don't recollect now. So, akama means no desires. They are anyabhilashita shunyam. They will practice tivrena bhakti yogena. Tivrena bhakti yogena means bhakti which is not covered by karma or jnana. Sarva kama means they have all sorts of desires. They want to desire house, they want family, they want riches, wealth, children, so many desires, car. And moksha kama means desire for liberation. So akamis are the bhaktas, the pure devotees. So they will attain Shuddha Bhakti. Among sarva kama and moksha kama, moksha kami, among these two categories, who can quickly come to the point of practicing Ananya Bhakti? Among the Sarva Kama, who have many desires, and Moksha Kama. Moksha Kama means who has desire for liberation. Who can quickly take up to Tivrena Bhakti Yogena among the two? Who will answer this? Anyone? Yes, Reena Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat. Sorry, Prabhuji. Actually, can you repeat the question?
In the Bhagavatam, there is mention akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udharadi tivrena bhakti yogena yajanti purusha param. Akama means those who are desireless, who have no desires. They will practice tivrena bhakti yogena. Tivrena bhakti yogena means bhakti yoga, which is jnana karmadi anavritam. That means Shuddha Bhakti, and they'll attain the Lord. They will do that. The sarva kama means they have many desires. They have desire for wealth, house, car, family, children, so many things. They are sarva kama. They are the moksha kama. Moksha kama means desire for liberation. So among these two categories, sarva kama and moksha kama, who can take up to tivrena bhakti yogena? Who can easily take up to tivrena bhakti yogena and attain the Lord among these two, sarva kama and moksha kama?
Akamna, Prabhuji. Akamna.
You're not understanding the question then. I've already spoken about akama. Akama means those who are desireless, they are devotees.
Yes.
I'm speaking about sarvakama and mokshakama. Among these two,
Sarvakam means desire for enjoyment. It's like
sarvakama means they
Sarvakam.
have many desires. And mokshakama means they have a desire for liberation only. They are the jnanis. Okay, to keep it
So the
simple,
Gyani
karmis and jnanis. Karmis who have desire to enjoy, and jnanis who is more who can
Gyani.
easily take up to practice of Tivrena Bhakti Yogena?
Gyani.
Why? What is the reason?
They are practicing, मतलब ज्ञान actually they are practicing from ज्ञान, मतलब भगवान ज्ञान तो वो actually I can't explain but
Any other devotees would like to answer? Jagdishwar Prabhuji. Are you there? Okay. Nadia Chaitanya Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Just I am in
Yes.
traffic, Prabhu.
Pardon?
In traffic, Prabhu, I am in traffic.
Okay, Jagdishwar Prabhuji. Yeah, I have unmuted you.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
The devotee who is having sarvakam means having so many desire, no, he will attend this.
He will be able to easily take up to Tivrena Bhakti Yogena.
Yes.
What is the reason?
Yes. Because in the mokshakam he is fixed because he is not interested in relationship. Mokshakam. He wants his only liberation. The sarvakami is having other desire. Though desire can be purified. And then because now he is conditioned and desires are there. So the main point is about personal relationship. Mokshakami is not in personal relationship.
Okay. A little close you are. The Sarvakama means they have desires for wealth or desire for house. But those desires are not very, very, very strongly deep rooted.
Okay.
So that's why when they take up to Bhakti, then those desires can easily be destroyed. Whereas the Mokshakami, their desire is very, very deep because of their Gyan Sadhana. They are very deeply rooted for the desire for liberation. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. Because of that deep realization what they have in their Gyan Sadhana, so for them to give up that desire for liberation and practice Shuddha Bhakti, it becomes difficult. So among the two, Sarvakama and Mokshakami, it is the Sarvakama who can take up to Shuddha Bhakti and then attain success. That's the point. I hope it is clear, right? So any other questions anyone has? Okay, we have in the Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas, we have finished the Nirvishesh Jnanavrit Bhakti Abhas. So I don't want to start the next topic, which is Karmavrit, Bahirmukh Karmavrit Bhakti Abhas, because then we don't want to halfway stop the discussion. We want to finish this and then Viparita Vastu. Bhakti, Buddhi, Janita, Bhakti Abhas. So these two we can take up in the next class. So I'll take up this in the next class. Any other further questions or clarifications anyone has? Any questions, any clarifications? Okay. So then we will stop here for today. So just to summarize, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has discussed that when the marginal characteristics are not fulfilled, the Tatastha Lakshan, then that Bhakti is not Shuddha Bhakti, it is Bhakti Abhas. And based on the conception of Rupa Goswami, who has already given the hidden definition of Bhakti Abhas in the Uttama Bhakti, and in his discussion of Bhava Bhakti Ratyabhas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that this bhakti abhas can be pratibimba or chaya. So that's why we discussed pratibimba ratyabhas and chaya ratyabhas. So the same concept will appear for, will be applicable for pratibimba bhakti abhas and chaya bhakti abhas. Now, pratibimba bhakti abhas can be of three categories, and that is nirvishesh jnanavrit bhakti abhas. When there is not Shuddha Bhakti, there is Abhas of Bhakti because of covering of impersonal Gyan. That's what we discussed. Now, the next one is Bahirmukh Karma Avrit Bhakti Abhas, which we will discuss in the next class. So we will stop for now. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Tattva Vivek ki Jai.